Good evening, everyone. This is the October meeting of the Park Harrisburg Public Advisory Committee, and we want to welcome the public, members of the press, to this meeting. Also, I want to recognize Mayor Eric Pappenfuse, who's in the audience, Fred Reddick, the Act 47. Fred, I forget what your title is, but he is here also. We're going to go through an agenda tonight. We'll introduce our members, run through a summary of the project status, list a summary of some questions that we received by email, allow for additional comments by the committee members, then have public comment. So at this point, I'd like to start with introduction of the committee members. Rich, if you would lead us off.
Sure. Rich Cox, City of Harrisburg.
Julian Godian, Department of General Services for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Jeff Darnell, Assured Guarantee.
Laura Cullison, Dauphin County.
Chris Sherman, SP Plus.
John Gass, PK Harris.
David Black, Creek, representing Penfa.
Bruce Weber, City of Harrisburg.
Wanda Williams, Harrisburg, City of Harrisburg. Nancy Kine, SP Plus.
John Kemp, SP Plus.
Thanks so much. So we'd like to start off with some comments on the project status and some 2015 accomplishments. I'll let SP Plus talk about some of the operational accomplishments that we've had during the year so far.
So hopefully everyone can hear me. I have a few points to run down. First of that being the ambassador program. This is an area that we had discussed during our last meeting and we were excited about. As you all know, we see our team as ambassadors for the city. So after our last meeting and in the last 6 to 8 months, we have held training sessions and provided tools for all of our ambassadors so that they can assist citizens and visitors to the city of Harrisburg when they're out and about doing their jobs. In addition to that, one of the things that had been requested as a part of the ambassador program was the grace period. So the grace period being when a time on a meter has expired, that there is a grace period that the enforcement officer gives. We're happy to say that we have finally worked through some of the challenges with that, and we've been able to develop the functionality for that grace period. The development had to be integrated between the digital machines, the Pango app, Complus, and Genetec, so it was a number of people who had to come together. The program has been implemented and we're going to test that tomorrow for the first time, and assuming that everything works as we expect it to, then we'll issue a press release to confirm that it has indeed worked. So we're very happy to have that in place, and we think that that's something that will help to make the parking experience even better in the city. As far as the garages are concerned, the parking access revenue control system, we are in the midst of installing the automated system that helps our customers to enter and exit the facilities more quickly and efficiently. We have 4 locations that are completed at this point in time: Walnut, Locust, Chestnut, and River. Market Square will go live on Monday, and then we anticipate the other 4 locations to be done before the end of the year. Another item that is perhaps not as exciting, but is obviously very important, is that of safety. When we took over, there were certain upgrades that needed to be taking place throughout the system. In the past 6 to 8 months, we've invested $236,000 into a series of upgrades that include sidewalk repairs, adding a barrier cable to the 5th Street garage, replacing cable barriers at the 7th Street garage, and we're currently in the process of renovating an elevator at the Walnut Street garage, which I've heard from many folks that will be very happy that will be a better experience in that particular location. The residential parking program that we've implemented, we have seen an increase in the number of residents who are utilizing the residential parking program. It's a $60 per month program. And the employee parking program that we've discussed in the past has also been implemented. We have 6 businesses as of today that are participating in that. Each of these programs is unique for each of the businesses. We've met with the businesses, asked them what their needs are, and developed programs that were specific to them. And finally, the other thing that we'll have after the new equipment is in place, we will be able to provide prepaid parking for the garage facilities, so a customer can go online, they can prepay for their parking, get a barcoded permit, and enter and exit in all the facilities once all the automation is done, probably towards the end of the year, the beginning of 2016.
Thank you, Chris. A couple of other items that I have on my list is just provide a update on the city subsidy. When we met last time in early spring of this year, we had put into place a subsidy where the city agreed to basically make a project whole if there was insignificant payments to cover reduction in rates on weekdays from 5 to 7 and then on Saturday. And I'm happy to say at this point, Bruce, that through August, there are no payments owed by the city. So overall, we have had increased revenues and usage of the meter system across the board, which has been very helpful in this, but we will note that we have seen increased usage 5 to 7 and on Saturdays. So, Mr. Mayor, you were right. And I'd like to applaud him on his push there to make that work. And I think at this point, we certainly, in looking at our 2016 budget, want to consider continuing that program. One other item that we had discussed back in March was a subsidy on the River Street garage, and that subsidy was really dependent on having the new automated entrances and exits installed at that particular project. And I'm also happy to say that that project is up and running at this point. And Nancy, could you share with us what those reduced rates are, Nancy Comm, SP Plus?
The project is lunch and brunch discount, and Monday through Friday from 11:30 to 1:30, and Saturday and Sunday from 11:30 to 3, there's a flat rate at the River Street parking garage of $3. You need to enter during those times I stated.
Thank you, Nancy. Then on capital improvements, I believe that Chris addressed the current status of the installation of the automated entrances and exit and the life safety items. So as we move forward through the year, we have tended to focus on those items. We have deferred certain capital improvements that were part of a plan that was presented by Desmond and Associates. And we feel at this point, just due to the focus that we've had on the adjudication system and on the installation of automated entrances and exit, that focusing on the life safety issues to make sure that those are taken care of and that no needed improvements going unperformed, that we're going to make a major effort next year to move in and have the repair program kick in to high gear. Looking to the next bullet item, the project financial report. The 2015 year-to-date financial report through the second quarter is attached and I believe has been made available to the public before. The one item I will note in looking at the year-to-date information for this particular report is that our major concern and budget delta has been with the enforcement revenues. As that program got up and running this year, we're at that point in time, we're about $1 million underwater as far as our comparison to the budget. And we have continued, maybe not as significant on a month-to-month basis, but have continued to be under budget in that category for the year. And we'll note as we look down through the list of payments that we recognize that the city has been underpaid this year. And we are concerned about that. We feel that that is really just a direct result of the shortfall in the enforcement area. As we look through to 2016, we're going to take a much more conservative view in our projection of the enforcement revenues. And so we feel like once we come back with our 2016 budgets, that we've got a better feel for what the regular amounts of the revenues are going to be for enforcement. And we'll just add that looking at our draft revenues through September, if we remove the enforcement portion of the revenues, we are basically on budget. Transient's a little bit lower than budget. Meters are higher than budget, so they generally tend to offset each other. So we want to focus on the enforcement area and just, I think, have a general realization that we're going to be at a lower revenue level than was originally considered when the transaction closed. Capital improvements, I think generally there is just following the information I provided before, where we've been active with the parks program and getting the automated entrances and exits installed. We do have still a fair amount of work to do there, so we're withholding payments to the contractor until they reach critical thresholds under their contract to get paid. One of the key life safety issues we dealt with this year was cable replacement for the cables that are on the interior, exterior of the 7th Street and 5th Street garage. I believe that will be completed with those fairly soon. And then just various other life safety repairs and necessary repairs that Chris alluded to in his discussion. One item that we will look to in 2016 also, and possibly towards the end of 2015, is the commencement of a booting program. That we have been working with the court system to establish basically an IT project that will provide us with live information associated with those who have violations that would qualify the project to be able to boot a number of vehicles. And we believe that we're fairly close. We're trying to go through a very deliberate process to assure that whenever we commence this program, that we are not going to be booting anybody who does not deserve to be booted. So we are still working on that. We still believe that that's a necessary element of the enforcement process to make people understand that when you get a ticket, if you don't pay it, and you basically disregard those tickets, you will be subject to booting. So we continue to push forward with that. Those conclude my comments. At this point, I'll stop and see whether there are any additional comments by the committee members.
One question.
Yes.
You had mentioned residential parking at $60 a month. What is the business being charged a monthly basis?
For the business program, each one is different. So as I said, there's 6 businesses that are currently participating. And we've had, a member of our team has met with each of those businesses to find out what their specific needs are, and then we've developed a program for them. It's not necessarily a monthly program, it could be a daily validation program, and because each one of those is different. We can certainly provide more detail on each one of those if that's needed.
Nancy said she would give me that.
Yeah.
Anything else from the board? With that said, we'll open up the comments to those from the public.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chris Seneca. I live here in Harrisburg, and I'm lightly opposed to you guys' entire existence in our city, seeing as how you do take money away from working people, especially young single mothers and people of color all around our city, and knowing that you guys are going to be booting cars, that people aren't going to be able to go to work if their car is booted just because they can pay your exorbitant parking tickets. And we know that these parking tickets take multiple hours of labor out of our paychecks. So we feel that this is a total attack on the lower class of the city, which makes the majority of the residents here. So we'd like to see more policies towards making city services more available to the people, such as parks or other services, knowing that you guys aren't here to just take money from us and rather provide us with something of value. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Yeah, hi there. Pierre McCoy, live in Uptown. A couple questions. Are you going to be raising meter rates next year or expanding hours?
We are under development with the 2016 budget, and once we're done with the 2016 budget, we'll be able to announce what the rates will be for 2016.
Do you think you are going to or not going to right now?
Right now, I can't say. The budget's under development.
Okay. Number two, so I live uptown, and one of the issues I have with the people who drive in their cars is they don't stop at stop signs. They are on the radios, and they're kind of dangerous. You might want to talk to them about following the law and stopping at stop signs, not running past cars or kids. Specifically around the Holly Clinic, a couple times I almost got hit walking by one of your standard parking little different machines, so probably want to work on that a little bit. And I guess number three is, if you're going to raise rates, are you going to expand hours? Are you going to charge on Sundays? Asking the question again.
I don't think there's been any plan to charge on Sundays at this point. And like I've said, with the rates for 2016, we've just started development of the budget, so we really have to finalize that before we can announce before the end of the year what the rate structure will be for 2016. But I will just say that we do understand sensitivity to rate increases, and we spend a great deal of time focusing on that fact. So it is, we come up with rate increases. It's not something that we look at as being just a casual type of approach. We realize it's important to everyone. So we have to do to make the transaction work too. So there's a balancing factor in there, and we're trying to spend a lot of time looking at all avenues to make sure that we keep the rates as reasonable as possible.
Can we get a copy of the actual quarterlies? You mentioned before that it was made available to the public. The third quarter?
Third quarter is not ready yet. I'm just saying draft numbers. The second quarter is available, and I believe it's out on our website, or has been released, I believe, by the press before. But I'll certainly provide that. And then quarterly information, we provide reporting 45 days after the end of the quarter, because we have to go through an accounting true-up process. And so we will have the third quarter information available by November 15th.
Okay, well, you present that information to the PEFTA meeting, I think on the 22nd, 23rd, which meeting?
No, it's not required until November 15th. So the formal reporting information will not be available until the middle of November.
Okay, one last question. What is your anticipated debt service coverage for the year?
I can't speak to that at this point. We're still looking at what our numbers are going to be for year end. So it's challenging for me to estimate what that is. That's a sensitive number. The bonds associated with this transaction are publicly traded, so to a certain extent, I can't give leading information that can make it into the public and give those who hold the bonds ideas about what we think is happening about the transaction. That's why I need to follow the formal disclosure process.
Which is usually, what, 45 days afterwards?
Yes.
I think last year you released the debt service coverage 6-7 months afterwards?
There's a report that we provide by the end of May that deals with debt service coverage requirements.
Okay, and I saw on the EMMA website, which is your continuing disclosure for the bonds.
Yes.
There have yet to be audited financial statements up there. They're all unaudited. Do you anticipate actually having audited statements up there
Yes, we do.
anytime soon?
Should be.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Hi, my name is Paul Quinn. I live on North Street in downtown Harrisburg. I would like to know if the people who actually give out the tickets, I'm not sure if you use meter maid or what terminology you use, if there is an incentive program of how many tickets they give out in their salary and pay. Is there an incentive program with them? Or are they paid straight hourly rate?
No, there's no incentive.
Okay. I'd also like to say that I've been ticketed approximately 20 times in the last year. I have beaten 11 of them in court. So I don't know what your training program is for your, I'm going to call it meter maid. I clearly have a Harrisburg parking pass in my window, and I'm still getting tickets. Last month I finally finished up with those. I submitted to like 5. The rest of my I beat 11 in court. I'm not sure how the training is going with them. And also, they gave me a graph of where we can park now, and I'd like to say that my neighborhood has approximately 25 cars. They have given us 3 parking spaces for residents to park there. 3 for all 3 residents of my area of North Street and Second. I live in the corner of North and Second. We got 3 parking spaces for like 20 cars. I feel this is attacking the residents of Harrisburg. You're clearly not giving us enough leeway for parking. I now have to park 2.5 blocks from my home when I get home from work to walk to my home. I used to be able to park within a block. Now I have to park 2.5 blocks away. I would like to see something toward the residents of Harrisburg. I'm not so much worried about the visitors downtown, if their parking meters are. I'd like to see something more toward the residents of Harrisburg, because we live here. We have to deal with this. And since SB Plus has taken over, we feel like we have been terrorized. We now put signs on our trees to notify everybody in the neighborhood when they can park there for street cleaning, etc., because we're trying to cover our people. We absolutely feel terrorized by this company. And I'd like to know, who gives a 40-year contract to anyone, anywhere? How did somebody come up with 40, Eric wasn't mayor, Linda was mayor? How do you get a 40-year contract without anybody being able to review it over a certain amount of time? Is there a certain amount of time where they can actually review this contract and nullify it? Or is it just straight 40 years?
Our contract is now for 40 years. I believe it's for 10.
I've never heard of a 40-year contract. That's almost insane.
No, we do not have a 40-year contract. I think the ground lease for the project, I believe, is 40 years. So Harrisburg Parking Authority ground leased the project along with the meters to PEDFA for 40 years. Now, I'm generalizing there because I haven't looked at that in a long time. I think that's what you may have seen. But the contracts for SB Plus and for PK Harris are not 40-year contracts.
Okay, well, I'm just going by what's in the paper. I think I'm misinformed. I'd just like to speak up for residents in my neighborhood that we live downtown, we shop downtown, we work downtown. We would like to not be terrorized in our neighborhoods by your meter maids. And that's basically how we feel ever since this company has taken over. I lived there for 8 years now, and I never had a problem until this company took over. Now I'm in court. I've been in court for the last 4 months, beating tickets. I did submit some because I was unaware of the parking policies that this company's putting in. I assumed because there's signs out front that says residential parking, that my whole block was residential parking. Turns out that we only have 3 spaces that are residential parking. The rest of it is commercial, or whatever you want to call it, commercial parking. So we now have 3 spaces in front of my home, where we used to be able to park in our whole block and not get a ticket. So I just think that's tired of being terrorized. That's the way I feel. That's it.
Thank you. Anybody else have a comment? Well, we'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight. Appreciate that. And we'll call this meeting closed.
And then, Chris, you mentioned about the grace period, the experiment for tomorrow. So will it start tomorrow if the experiment is successful, or
Yes.
when?
Yes. So we've had to integrate a number of technologies together, which we didn't initially anticipate. So we've got that all together, and we're testing it tomorrow. I hesitate to say we're going live tomorrow because we want to do a test first to make sure it works. And as I said, assuming it works, when it does work, you'll get a press release that says that it's up to you.
And can you reiterate the details of the grace period and exactly how long that is?
So it's basically a 5-minute grace period. So what happens is that the meter communicates to the cloud, and it will basically give an additional 5 minutes on the time. So when the parking enforcement officer checks the license plate, it's not going to say there's a violation until 5 minutes after the actual time.
Is that something that you had heard that people wanted, or how did you come to that?
Yes, exactly. That was something that we had heard from the community that they felt that the enforcement officers were too aggressive, and so therefore we were able to get all the technology and everything to do it that way. We didn't want to put it in the enforcement officer's hands to make the decision, so that's why we implemented all the technology and get in place.
In the 5 minutes, how did you settle on that?
Just through discussion with the advisory committee and PK Harris. That's everything.
Is that citywide too, not just in Midtown, will be downtown as well?
Correct.
Okay.